Hello, rock stars. Matt Vanderbo here. Hey, do you want to add an additional 2 to 5 seconds of runtime to all of your placements on TV? And or do you want to steal 2 to 5 seconds of placement time from some other poor schmuck? If so, stick with me because today we are going to talk about sting endings. You ready for this? Let's dive in. Okay, so there are 4 ways in which you can typically end an instrumental cue. The first thing that you should never, ever do is end your music with a fade out. Now, I'm not talking about hitting the last note and letting the music fade. That's more of a decay where you hit it, dong, and the music trails away to nothing. The fade out I'm talking about is where the music continues trucking along and the volume just goes away to nothing. I want you to think about Leonard Skinner's Free Bird, where after 10 minutes of music, the poor mix engineer was like, I've had enough. And they just turn the volume down, the track drifts away to nothing. But in the back, you just hear the band is just continuing to play. Okay, they never stop. That's a fade ending, and that is never an appropriate way to end your music, not in TV game. And if you make a fade ending, it is the one thing that will scream amateur hour, and you do not want to be seen as an amateur, okay? Don't do fade outs. Number 2, you should always avoid ending your track on anything other than the root note or any note within the 1 chord. You always want to end on the 1. So let's just say you're feeling crafty and you decide that you're going to end your track on the major 5th or maybe the minor 3rd chord. When editors need to use that ending and splice it in somewhere else within your track, they're going to take the ending and move it over here. And if you've got the 5 chord or the 3 chord or the 4, maybe even a minor 6th, none of that stuff really translates to a good way to finish your music. Try it on your own if you want to. You will see that it's just very jarring and doesn't supply any type of conclusion. It's just not a good way to end your music. So you should always make sure you end on the 1 chord or the root notes of the 1 chord. Now, the 3rd way you could end your music is by doing what I call a button ending. And that is where the music goes along, gets to the end of a progression, and then just stops. Okay, it doesn't go on. You don't need to fade it out. It just hits the last note, and that's that. Now, a button ending is fine because, sure, it's probably ending on the 1 chord. It does not fade out, so it's passing the quality metrics here, but it really doesn't add any usable standalone section. It just gets to the end of a progression and stops. Now, while that is not inherently wrong, it just doesn't give you a leg up on getting more placements. So, the 4th way that you could end your tracks, and this is the way I recommend every piece be ended, is by doing a sting ending. Now, a sting ending is a special composed ending that happens after the conclusion of a progression. It's just a little something extra, typically 1 bar, maybe 2 bars worth of music that is just a standalone thing that is in addition to the conclusion of a button ending. These don't need to be grandiose, they don't need to be huge, but they just need to be something extra. And the reason is, all of our sting endings need to function as a standalone piece of music. And these are going to be anywhere from 2 to 5 seconds, okay? But that needs to be something that can be chopped out and just played on its own, and it will be its own little piece of music, a tiny piece of music, but it will be its own standalone thing. Furthermore, it is able now to be dragged into any point in your music to supply a conclusion where the conclusion was not present before. Now, most of the placements you get are not going to be very long. They might be 8 to 20 seconds, okay? That's about it. An editor somewhere is going to isolate 8 seconds. It might be from the start of your track to the 8-second mark, and they can't go beyond that because that's where the scene ends. So they need to add a conclusion to the 8-second point. So they'll chop off your sting and drag it over here to the 8-second mark. And a sting ending just allows them to do that extremely easily. Not only does it give a good period or exclamation mark to the end of your musical phrase, but it's also easy to chop and easy to move and supplies some type of finality. Now, another reason sting endings are so important is because your ending can now be applied to somebody else's piece of music that did not compose a sting ending. And I've found this happen to me hundreds, maybe thousands of times over the past 15 years. I'll go through my cue sheets and I'll see so many 2 to 5 second placements. And at first, I never really understood how an editor would use such a small portion of my music until I finally saw it in action. And what these people were doing was they were chopping off my sting ending and using that on its own. And in some cases, they were adding it to the end of someone else's track who didn't supply a proper sting ending. So this is how you can jump in and steal someone else's placements. Okay, you just stole 2 to 5 seconds worth of runtime from some other schmuck who didn't do it right. Now, I'm going to play some examples for you guys, and I hope that the musical example helps illustrate the point that I'm trying to say verbally. There are 3 ways that I typically compose sting endings, and none of them are complex. The first way is just by taking the one chord and just repeating it 3 to 5 times. So you get to the end of your progression and then go dun, dun, dun. That's it, okay? It's just as simple as hammering away on that chord or note 3 times. Hell, you can even copy it out of your DAW and paste it 3 times. Let me give you some examples on that. I'm just gonna play the sting ending. You got that? It was just 3 hits of the root chord. Let's hear it again. There we go. And those 3 hits can be chopped off and they can be moved anywhere within your piece. Let's take a listen to another one. Whoa, that's a lot of hits, but it's just a bunch of stuff getting hit repeatedly. I'm gonna back it up and play it again. Just a lot of hits on the one chord, and there you go. Let me give you another one. So that was dun, 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 dun. 7 hits of the same chord or note. There you go. I mean, it doesn't get much easier than that, but this is so usable and gives you so much more potential for making more placements and more money. Now, the second way I typically end my cues, especially things like dramedy or hip-hop comedy, which is my bread and butter, is I will use one of the mallet instruments that's probably playing at some point and just get to the end and bring, do a little quick run, ring up, and then hit the root note up in the octaves. Bring! Take a listen. There you go. Let's listen again. Simple as that. Here's another one. Easy. Now, these tracks could have ended without that extra sting note and it would have been fine, but this extra little note gives you just a really great conclusion. And again, that one note can be chopped off and added anywhere to your piece or someone else's piece. The third way that I will typically end cues is by just doing a quick little progression that maybe goes from the root to the fifth to the root again as an octave. So boom, boom, boom. So root, fifth, octave, or some variation of that. Maybe it's dun, dun, dun. Anyway, just usually like 3 notes is all that I do, and just run up and start on the root, end on the root. Let's take a listen. There you go. Root, fifth, octave. Let's listen again. Okay. Here's another. Dun, dun, dun. Super simple, super usable. Let's try another. So that's a little bit of a different progression. Dun, da dun, da dun, da dun. Let's give you another. Isn't this easy? And one more example, since it's Halloween time. So that's a descending from the top note all the way down to the lower octave, dun, 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 and then a combination of what I told you earlier with the ring. Let's hear it again. These are so easy, everybody, and I hope that you put this into action right away if you're not already doing it. And I hope that one of these days you can open up your cue sheets and find a handful of 2 to 5 second placements, and then you can look back to this video and be like, thank you, Matt, you just made me money at the expense of somebody else. So let's get out there, let's make lots of music, let's get lots of placements, and let's make that money, baby!